Really quick, leaders, to help us out later in the evening, if you can pick from your table that you will then send in Slack 2 people that you want to nominate for best dressed of the evening. So leaders, very quickly, you got to evaluate your best dressed, and you need to send in Slack per table. We'll have 8 names that then we will be deciding between. So go through, send it in Slack. We need it sent by the end of worship. So have it sent in Slack by the end of worship. Students, make your cases, do your bribery, do whatever you need to do. If you're done with your food or almost done, if you guys can start throwing away your garbage, we have a trash can all the way up here at the front for you, nice and easy. So if you guys can start clearing your tables, just start throwing your trash away, that would be awesome. You're going to want it out of the way before worship. So start throwing that away, start moving that over, all that good stuff. I see many of plates that could be cleared. You got this, you got this.
All right, everybody, if I can have your attention, who enjoyed their chicken? Yes, I enjoyed my chicken too. Well, what was she saying? Welcome, you guys. My name is Greta. He's Colby. And, so, my first announcement that I got for you guys, like all Sundays, we got life groups coming up at 9 o'clock this Sunday. It's up in the attic, up the stairs. We're going through Genesis like we've been the couple last weeks. This week, we're reading through Genesis 6 through 10. We're going to be discussing the couple chapters after that. Yeah, but show up for that. We'd love to see you.
And then next Wednesday and Sunday, we will be having meetings for more information about fine arts if you're interested.
And then lastly, like Pastor Kyle was saying, we got the house parties. Yes, house parties coming up. Just keep a lookout for those. Your leaders are going to get more information about that for you guys. And now before we get into worship, I'm just going to pray for us. Dear Jesus, I'm so glad that we're able to come together as a community tonight and just have a really fun time with the formal night. I pray that worship goes really well and that our little mini sermon afterwards will go well too. And everybody said, Amen. All right, you guys can come on up for worship.
Amen. True life. Just because it's a formal, doesn't mean we can't have a little bit of fun, right? Like, when you go to a dance, what do when you dance? You dance, right? So, we're gonna have some fun. I want you guys to show me your best dance moves. You guys, I picked the songs that we know the best, that are like party songs. You hear it? You know what we're doing. So, TrueLife, do me a favor and dance. If you don't dance, I will come down there, and you don't want to know what I'll do. Ready? Da 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 da. You got it. Da 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 da. You got it. All right. You are the reason for life, the air inside my lungs. You've taken hold in my heart, and there's no doubting that your love is unexplainable, phenomenal. And what your grace has done is nothing but a miracle. So tell me, how could I ever turn away from you when you've always been the way? Here we go. You've given me a new heart, true reality. I'm living for the one who set me free. You've given me your vision, better than a dream. You ain't gotta wake me up, it's not a fantasy. Da 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 da. Here we go. Da da da. Hey. Da 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 da. There we go. Da da da. My friends keep saying I'll change, I'm acting different now. They want to know what I know, they want the truth, and so I told them, if you're free on Wednesday, come to youth with me. Leave your past right at the door, and you're there, giving me a new heart, true reality. I'm living for the one who said, give it up. Giving me a vision, better than a dream. Wake me up, you turn my life right upside down, set my feet on high ground. Now I'll never be the same. It's not a fair. Da 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 da. Here we go. Da 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 da. Hey, out here with the J's, let's go. I hope you know it. I'll never be the same. My heart's forever changed. I know the old me is over and buried in the grave. I don't care what they say, cause I'll never be ashamed. His love that saved me 180 the time that never faded. So now throw up your, here we go. When they come on and call up your friend, cause we're out here on Wednesday. So if you owe it all to Jesus, go 1, 2, 3, 4. Da 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 da. Hey. Da 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 da. All right, let's go. All right. Hey, when you go to a dance, like let's say for school, do you go by yourself? I do. We're not gonna go by ourselves. We're gonna go with our best friends. You know this song. You know it. Ready? Let's be with our friends, right? I don't wanna be on my phone, but I can't be alone. Welcome to the modern me. Trying to be somebody I'm not, but it's not what I want. Tell me there's another one. All of the lights you chased are now fading. All the cheap thrills were only time. Tell me why society's plans should decide who I am. Sure, there's a all of my best friends are sick of pretending. We want the truth. So much is missing. So give us the real thing. I know it's you. Na 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 na. Hey. Na 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 na. Are you gonna feel left out? Like, is it ready? Not yet. Hey, ready? Right here. And I don't want a stereotype to decide who I am. Never knew.
over trying to find the next high, 'cause the high never lasts. I'ma go up. All of the lights are chased and now fade. Till it was right, the times they are changed. Tell me why society's plan should decide who I am. Surely there's a higher. All of my best friends are sick of pretending. We want the check it out. So much is missing, so give us the real thing. I know it's you. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. All right, one last time, check it out. All of my best friends are sick of pretending. We want the truth. So much is missing, so give us the real thing. I know it's you. Na 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 na.
Hey, we really gotta know how to end that song, don't we? Hey, True Life, I cordially invite you to take your seats.
Well, hello, everybody. How we doing tonight? Whew. You guys full and tired now? How we doing tonight? Hey, good deal, good deal, good deal. Well, let me pull this up right here, because y'all, we got some stuff to do tonight. All right, all right, all right. Well, hey, if we have not met before, my name is Caleb. I'm your guys' youth pastor. That means I get up here and I talk a lot sometimes, and hopefully I help us know a little bit more about what Jesus is wanting to do in our lives and all of that good stuff. Tonight, for this moment, I am accompanied by Parker. Can we all say thank you, Parker? Bringing a bit of ambiance on the keys and all of that good stuff. Well, here's the deal. In just a few moments, I will be joined by my better half, Miss Sierra. Mrs. Sierra, I guess, if that's probably the proper term. I don't know. But Sierra's going to be joining me up here. We're going to be going through some questions you guys have been asking, because we have been in a collection, in a series of talks called Do You Like Me? And we've been asking the age-old question. Not like, do you like me? But it's like, do you like me? Like that, do you like me? That sort of a thing. We don't want to quite say love, but, you know, we probably feel that way in our gut, and we got some butterflies and that sort of a thing. So we've been going through, we've been talking about that for a few weeks, and y'all asked some questions the last couple weeks that we want to dive into, that we want to explore, that we want to be able to discuss. But here's the deal. Before we jump into that, we got to do something else, and we're going to see how it goes. But I think it's going to be beneficial, because when we get all dressed up for something called a formal, when we get all dressed up doing something a little fancy, a little nice, there's a word that does not probably usually come to mind for you. That is a word that is beneficial for you to know. And it's this thing called etiquette. It's this thing called etiquette. It's this thing about how you should be acting sometimes. So tonight, because I felt it was the only way we could do this well, I want to train you a little bit in some classic etiquette by taking you through a list that I found on Google. Does that sound okay? Let's learn how we should be to be some classy young men and women. Now, first off, if we're going to talk about etiquette, we need to know what etiquette means. That's the first thing. So the first thing to know about etiquette is that etiquette is to always show respect and kindness to everyone around you. That's a good thing to do. So if you want to be a nice, polite person, be kind and respectful. Pretty easy requirements to have good etiquette. The next one, use please, thank you, and excuse me every day. So when you're out in the woods on your own, on a camping trip, say please to the rock, thank you to the tree, and excuse me to the random deer that runs by you. Because it says every day, no matter what, make sure to say please, thank you, excuse me. Number 3, how to hold your silverware correctly. Now let me just tell you this. I don't know what that means. So we're going to go to the next one. Next one. To have good etiquette, you need to know how to properly use a napkin to wipe your mouth, not your sleeves to do it. Really quick, if we're in here using our sleeves to get our mouths clean, and you're not like on a job site up a few feet, not able to grab, don't do that. You know the way you do it? You take a napkin and you wipe it over your mouth. It's that easy. You guys are becoming better behaved people because of this. Don't use your sleeves. Next, how to chew with your mouth closed. Really quick, everyone shut your mouth. That is how you do that. It is not hard. We chew with our mouths closed. Number 6. For this one, put your elbows on the table, cross your hands together. Do not do that. Bad etiquette to have your elbows on the table. If you show up to somebody's house and they're just going to be like, who is this? Bad etiquette. So you got to cheat, and you drop them 1 inch. So it's basically your elbows, but you're trying to be able to follow a rule. That's good etiquette. Number 7, never interrupt an adult when they are speaking to someone else. Don't do that. Yes. I'm not saying these are things I do. Just saying it's what they say on this Google list. Number 8, never comment on someone's appearance unless it's to say something nice. Some of y'all needed to hear that really quick. If you see somebody and you don't got something nice to say, just don't say it at all. Etiquette. Being kind, being nice. Number 9, how to give a compliment to someone else. You know what that looks like? It's looking and just saying, you look good today. It's not saying, you look better than you did yesterday. Because guess what? That's a backhanded compliment right there, okay? Next one, how to write a thank you letter. Just text somebody thank you. And that's what suffices nowadays, I feel like. Okay, ask Greta, she'll let you know how to do it. Number 11, you must always help someone in need, particularly if they are less able than you are. That's a good one. Help somebody that's got some needs. That's good etiquette. Number 12, how to introduce yourself into others properly. It's walking in a room and it's saying, hello, my name is Caleb. What is your name? It's your privilege to meet me today. That would be a good way to do that if you walk in and say that to somebody. Number 13. Guys, this is changing your lives. You got to listen to this. Be aware of positive body language and how to show it. So if you walk in a room, just walk in confident. You want to just be like this. Hello, everybody. It's nice to meet you today. Good confidence in your body language, all right? When you walk into a room. Number 14. I'm sorry. I kind of did this one, but never to call an adult by their first name unless the adult instructs you to do so. Yep, there we go. So, unless they instruct you to do otherwise, be kind, be polite, be respectful. You can call me Caleb if you want. I don't know if you guys even think of me as an adult, though, so let's be real. Number 15, always knock on a door before opening it. Polite, kind. How to answer a phone politely. Most of you probably don't make phone calls very much, so skip to the next one. How to make eye contact when speaking to another person. Jacob, come here really quick. You have to learn how to make eye contact with somebody. You gotta learn. Really quick, leaders, if you haven't submitted your best dress, send it in Slack really quick. If you haven't, quick reminder, send your 2 nominees. Now, Jacob, that was terrible. He walks up here, we're talking about eye contact, and he's like, no, so what you want to do to show good etiquette is you want to lock your eyes with them. You don't blink, you don't look away. Sir, I want you to respect me. That is good etiquette, everybody. Next one. After we just learned that fine bit of detail, the next one is don't point and stare at people. David! And we just point and stare. Do not do that. That is rude. That is odd and usually creepy. Not good etiquette. Next one, number 19. Always cover your mouth when sneezing or coughing. We learned this very good the last few years. This isn't even an etiquette lesson at this point. It's a humanitarian effort if really we're talking about it. Cover your mouth. Cover your mouth. Now, the last one, number 20, is how to invite someone to join a group if they are alone. And y'all learn this skill. It's a good one, but a good example of it would be, Sierra, get up here. We got something to do. That would be a great way to invite somebody up to join you on a stage. Parker, give a hand for Parker with the jazz keys for us tonight. Thank you very much. Matthias Kennedy, can we deliver the microphone? Oh my goodness. Parker, we appreciate your service. Well, hello everybody. How we doing? Do you all feel like you know how to be better human beings now thanks to that 20-list lesson? I'm very glad. I'm very glad. Life-changing, right?
Life-changing. Oh.
Do you want?
It's me.
Come on, Sierra. Good eye contact.
Life-changing.
There we go.
Yeah.
Life-changing. Okay. All right, everybody. So what we are going to do for the next little bit is we are going to go through some questions in a moment. But first, no, I'll make you guys wait. I want you to look through these. I have one in my head that I'm thinking. I want you to look through these. I want you to type out the one that you think, and we can agree. Sound good? Remember, your leaders are the ones that nominated you. So, I do agree.
And I have one more.
Well, no, I agreed. No, I agree.
Okay.
Now delete that. Okay. No evidence. Do we want to know who is best dressed right now? All right. No, we're going to do it right now because I didn't plan this part out. Sound good? All right.
Roll, please.
Drum roll, please. The best dressed for the first annual TrueLife Formal is Ellie Fox.
Ellie!
If you can make your way down, Ellie.
Woohoo! Let's keep giving her a round of applause.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you, Ellie. You look beautiful tonight.
And there were many great contenders. Many great contenders, okay? So, with that being said, you all look dashing tonight. You all look beautiful tonight. All of those great things. But right now, should we do the other one too? Nadia, do you have it ready? Can you bring them up here? Everyone give it up for Nadia.
There's actual crowns?
All right.
I was going to grab the cups.
Oh, perfect. So,
This is so cool.
this was a last-minute addition to the TrueLife Formal. This was
These
not
are
my
awesome.
Why are you putting it on?
Sorry.
We crown ourselves. This is a
I always wanted to be a
dictatorship.
princess. Okay.
No, I'm kidding. Okay, so This morning, Pastor Lexi walks in, and she says, are you doing a king and queen of the True Life Formal? And I said, no. And then she said, you should do it. And then we posted it, and I thought no one is going to vote on this. And then a lot of you did. So you made this happen. So right now, we are going to crown our king and queen
I'll be the crowner.
of the True Life Formal by a landslide. I need a drum roll. By a landslide. Mason Holiday and Lucy Huda.
Yeah! Kyle, can we get some pictures
Come
of this?
forward to be crowned.
Can we get
Mason,
pictures?
come forward. Mason is too tall. Okay, come up on the stage. Come up on the stage. Here, wait. Yep, there we go. And turn around, turn around. Give it up for them! I'll get out of the way.
Sorry.
All right, you guys can leave the stage. Thank you very much.
I think I made a weird face in the back of that picture.
That's okay. That's how we
it was
are.
like this.
All right, everybody. So with that being said, now that we have new royalty and the monarchy has been established within the True Life community, we now will wait till next year to see if our re-election continues to have the same monarchy taking place. Maybe. Are we enjoying it this year? Okay, maybe we will.
We're gonna have one next year.
All right, so with that being said, you guys, we are now going to dive into some things I think you guys are going to appreciate, and after this, we're going to have a bit of an after party and have some fun. Now, when we talk relationships, you guys have some questions, so we want to answer your questions and talk through those a bit. And so, the first question that we had asked that we're going to touch on is, how do you set good boundaries? How do you set good boundaries? Last week, we talked in our relationship series about boundaries and the importance of burping with Chick-fil-A, the importance
That's bad
of them,
etiquette.
and that sort of a thing. Now, one of the questions then that obviously can come up is it's like, hey, those are the boundaries that I have, but how do I establish them? How do I set them? How do I create them? Do you want to start us off on this one?
Sure. When it comes to setting boundaries, the first thing that I said is that if you are dating someone and you want to have boundaries with them, the first thing you need to do is sit down and talk to them about it and say them out loud. This sounds like a minor thing, and you're like, yeah, Deb, but I have so many friends who we had the same boundaries, right? But they thought in their head, I will think them in my head, and I won't say them out loud. But the reason why this is important is because when you get down to the moment, it's easy to go, well, I didn't really mean that in my head. I didn't really mean to keep that boundary. But if you say it out loud, that's an intentional thing that you're doing to say, I want to stick to this. And so that was the first thing that I wrote down was say your boundaries out loud. Do you want me to go through my... Okay. The second thing was ask for advice from the people around you that you look up to or that know you well. So sometimes I think when we want to set boundaries, we go, yeah, I want to have a healthy, godly relationship, but I don't really know how to do that. I was blessed with awesome youth pastors who I remember sitting down with me and I had said, how do I set good boundaries? And they knew me and they knew what would work well for me. And they said, hey, these are some boundaries that I think would be good for you to set in place. And so I went off of those boundaries and that was really helpful. But the reason why it was helpful was because they knew me, so they knew how to help me in that situation. And then the last thing that I wrote was don't just set boundaries about what you can do, but I called them no-no zones. And so, I'm sorry, Caleb just rolled his eyes. But I do think like one of the no-no zones that Caleb and I had when we were in college, he had an apartment where obviously his parents didn't live because that would be weird. And so we just said like, hey, we're not gonna hang out in the apartment alone. But there's certain places when it comes to setting boundaries, like you could say, we're not gonna cross these boundaries, but it's especially hard to not cross those boundaries if you're not in the places that allow you to do that.
Totally. I had no idea where she was going there at first. No, I totally agree with all of that. I think the last one is just being able to realize that when it comes to setting boundaries, boundaries show a sign of respect within the relationship. So if you go to that person that you are interested in, that you're dating, that whatever is going on, and you talk to them and you say, hey, I would like to establish some boundaries in the relationship, and they are not open to that, they're not receptive to that, here's the reality. They're not wanting to respect things that you care for and you value. And so when it comes to this conversation about setting boundaries, it'll be awkward. Like, just know that going into it, it will most likely, 90% of the time, be a slightly awkward conversation. Because it's basically having to look and say, hey, these are some areas that I am nervous about us crossing, nervous about us going into, which to that person might come across as, hey, these are some things I might not trust you within. And guess what? That might be a part of the conversation, and that is okay. We've talked about it past weeks and stuff. I have a story that's a lot different than Sierra's when it came to relationships. And so in reality, there's boundaries that she set within our relationship that were because of past decisions I made, that were because of things that I had chose to do. And in some regards for her, it wasn't that she didn't trust me, but it was that she looked and said, hey, I want to set our relationship up for success. So the areas that you have struggled with in the past, we are going to help make sure will not be an issue in our relationship. And so setting boundaries, it's about respect. It's about having that honesty with one another and all of that stuff. And so that's what I would say. How do you set good boundaries? You have the conversation, like you were saying. You establish them, and you know what? You're willing to push through the awkwardness of having to talk about them. Because you might bring up a boundary. Let's say you are starting to date somebody, and you say, hey, I don't think we should hang out in your bedroom alone. And they might be like, well, I don't want to have my parents around. Oh, I don't want my guardians around. Oh, I don't want my siblings around, stuff like that. So why can't we just go up into my bedroom? It's having that tough, awkward conversation of saying, hey, it's because of this, and I really care about it. And being willing to push past that awkwardness to fight for something that you are truly wanting in your relationship, that you're wanting to fight for. So how do you set it? You push past that. Now, next question, because we're going to keep rolling. What are good ways, because we answer every question you guys ask, what are good ways not to attract cooties? This was asked, so we had to answer it. You know, I will say, I think there's just some good repellents out there. That if you get, I believe mosquito repellent also works.
BO works too.
BO really works. Hey, you don't want cooties? Have some BO, and it's just going to keep anything away. It'll be good. Don't be the person that's too good at the BO repellent, though, okay? There we go. All right, next one. This is a good question to be able to think about. So, is the time for sex after you are married? So, is the time to have sex just for after you are married? Or is there an exception for some people? Where does the Bible say that sex before marriage is a sin? Now, this is a great question. This is one that's important because if we're talking about boundaries, and one of the most common ones we're going to instantly jump to is the boundary of sex within a relationship. And so we then, yes, sir, okay. We need to then be able to think about what is going on with that and why it is. So I want to read some verses to you guys. I want to walk through a little bit of what the Bible says about it and why it is a boundary the Bible asks us to uphold, which really, when we're talking the Bible, we're talking the Word of God. We're talking about what Jesus has to say to us, what he believes is best for us. Again, last week we talked about it. Boundaries are not God trying to keep fun away from us. It's him establishing the right boundaries so that we are able to have something be beneficial and not harmful in our lives and that sort of a thing. So first, let's look. Hebrews chapter 13, verse 4, it says, marriage is to be held in honor among all, and the marriage bed is to be undefiled. For fornicators and adulterers, God will judge. Now, really quick, when it's talking about that right there, it's talking about, hey, people that choose to step out of what God's design is for this, they'll be judged. Now, really quick, what that does not mean is that God will not forgive. But what it means is if somebody is doing that and they're unrepentant of it, just like anything in our lives, if we are not realizing that we need to surrender it to God, there will be judgment for that. But the grace of Jesus is that when we give things over to Jesus, he takes that weight on his shoulders and he takes it off of ours. But it's important to realize here, it's saying, hey, marriage is to be held in honor by everybody. Why does it say everybody? Because not everybody's going to get married. Because not everybody has to be married. Guess what? You are complete, whole, and awesome on your own. You don't need a spouse. You don't need a relationship to complete you or anything like that. But every person should honor the covenant, the act of marriage. In Matthew chapter 19, verse 9, it says, and I say to you, whoever divorces his wife except for immorality and marries another woman commits adultery. Now, why do I bring up this verse? This verse is talking about when somebody would go and they would get a divorce. If it's not for sexual morality, he says that it's not a good thing to do. He says you should try to fight for that. Now, really quick, there's obviously some areas when it comes to abuse and things like that. This is not Jesus saying stay in that marriage, stay in that relationship. He's looking to some people that were divorcing over anything whatsoever. And he's saying, guess what? There's some legit things that you should realize. And the Bible does speak those things. But in this verse, he's saying, hey, guess what the number one reason that God says? He says, hey, if somebody is having an affair, if somebody is going and they are having sex outside of your marriage, then guess what? That is a reason why you would be able to leave them. And again, there's a few other reasons, but in this one, he's pointing this. Why is that? Because sex is obviously important within the marriage. When we start to look at things like this and we start to say, hey, well, why can't I not have sex before marriage? Well, why would it be wrong then when you are married to have sex with someone else? That it's a reality. It's something to have to realize that it's a covenant thing. It's something where it's a great act. It's something bringing you together. It's an act of unity and all of that. And God wants that to be held in honor. In Leviticus 18, verse 20, it says, you shall not have intercourse with your neighbor's wife to be defiled with her. It's speaking on adultery. It's speaking on having an affair. Guess what it's saying right there again? It's saying, hey, this thing has a place. It has a place, it has a purpose, and don't use it outside of that. And again, I'm going to some extreme examples because it helps us realize God's view of it, that it is important, and it is important in the right place and that sort of a thing. In 1 Corinthians 7:9, it says, but if they do not have self-control, it's talking about people who are not married, let them marry. For it is better to marry than to burn with passion, to burn with lust, and that sort of a thing. In this verse, what it's then talking about, it's looking, and it's not necessarily saying right here, hey, having sex outside of marriage is a sin. It's not flatly saying this right here, but that is what it is speaking to. It's saying if you are burning with passion for somebody, if you are in this area and you're older, all this stuff, get married so that you're not living in sin. So again, we're having to read it and we're having to realize what they are saying through that verse. And then in 1 Thessalonians 4:3, it says, for this is the will of God, your sanctification, that is, that you abstain from sexual immorality. And so again, it's just speaking to this idea that when it comes to sex, there's a purpose for it. And the boundary for it that God has placed is to be something within a marriage. But again, the reality that we all have to realize, and again, as married people, things like that, again, you might be like, hey, that's a hypocritical place to be able to speak to say it's not something for everybody or anything like that. But it is a reality to realize that God looks at us and he doesn't say, hey, in your life, you have to have sex or something like that. It's not something that is going to ever complete you. It's something that within the right confines has a benefit to it, but is not something that is meant to be like, this is what I strive for. It's not to be an idol in your life and that sort of a thing. And so when we look at it, we have to ultimately end up asking ourselves, why is this something I want the Bible to say is okay in any circumstance? Because is it something that we're not wanting to let God dictate and have control over in our lives? Not as a bad God, but as a God who loves us and cares for us and that sort of a thing. Do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, that's great.
Cool. The next question that we got here, are we doing okay? Yeah. Sweet. Next one, how to date well. How do you date well?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to my mind when I hear this question is to date well, I think you need your community to be a part of it. If you are dating someone and it's just you guys, you're the only ones that know what's going on, you're the only ones holding each other accountable, you're the only ones even pouring into your relationship with Christ, I would say that's probably not a healthy relationship. A healthy relationship looks like people being in their community, but also being a part of community together, that they love together, that they're for together. That would be my first thought. Did you have thoughts? I don't know if something's going to come to my mind.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would just say let's get crazy practical. This is not Bible. This is Caleb. You can throw out Caleb. Make sure you keep the Bible. But if you find something you like that Caleb says, you can keep it too. If I was to talk super practical about dating, just how to date well, I would say it looks like this. It looks like you got somebody that maybe you got a crush on. You got somebody that you see and you don't just think is cute. You've taken a little bit of time. You've gotten to know them. You're not just like, hey, I want to date you because it's like, hey, I see you think you're cute. Fun fact about me and Sierra's relationship. At the beginning of us getting to know each other, she was somebody from afar that I just thought, wow, she's really cute. And I'll just tell you what, there was a lot of other guys that thought so. And so I literally said to myself, oh, it's not going to be worth the hassle. Because there was a lot of guys that were trying to talk to her and stuff. And I was just like, okay, whatever, we'll move on. But then I got to know her. So it was beyond just me thinking she was cute. It was now me knowing her, and I said, man, I don't want to just fight for somebody that I think is attractive. I want to fight for somebody that, man, I think I would want to be in a relationship. I think I might want to marry and that sort of a thing. So you start getting to know that person. You know a little bit about them, and then you go and you respectfully ask them on a date. Now, again, like, we're in the modern age. Ladies, if there's a guy that you like and you want to ask them on a date, and they're so oblivious that they're not thinking to ask you on a date, guys, don't be oblivious people. But just tell them and be like, hey, I'd want to do something. I want to go on a date with you. I want to go to coffee with you if you drink coffee. Hey, I'd like to go get ice cream with you if you want to go to ice cream. That sounds super 60s and 70s, but it could still work. Guys, if you got somebody that you like, that sort of a thing, just having the moment and being able to say, hey, can I go out with you? And this is actually, man, here's an easy line. That is not like incredible by any means, but it's a good, honest one, is if you have somebody that you're like, hey, I'd want to go on a date with them, that sort of a thing, figure out what you want to ask them to. I'm going to use coffee as the example because that was just always the perennial thing where we lived in Kirkland, was you'd ask people to coffee. So if you see somebody, you have a crush on them, you're starting to get to know them, and you want to go on a date with them to know them one-on-one a little bit, hey, we're going to assume you know each other's names. There we go. Hey, Sierra, it's been super cool just getting to know you more. I was wondering, could I take you out to coffee and just like, for like an hour? It'd be cool just to get to know you some more, know a little bit more of your story, just like who you are and that sort of a thing. I just think you're a really cool person. Would that be okay Thursday?
Yeah, it would be okay on Thursday.
Yeah. So like, it's just an easy ask, and here is the deal. Don't make it awkward. Don't make it weird. Don't have the first ask be like, hey, will you be my girlfriend? Hey, will you be my boyfriend? Ask someone on a date first, because here's also the deal. We're just going to be honest. Here's the deal. You might go on one date with them and be like, this is not who I thought they were. And you might be like, I really want to get out of this, but you don't want to have it where it's like, well, on Monday I had a boyfriend and told all of my friends. On Monday I had a girlfriend, I told all my friends. And by Thursday you're like, we broke up. Just ask them on a date. Make it easy for yourself. Save some heartache and that sort of a thing. And then you go on one or two dates. You realize you like each other. Don't let it be like, you don't need 20 dates to find out if you like somebody. So honor them a little bit. Give it where you can say, hey, I like you so much. We're going to be exclusive. Will you be my boyfriend? Will you be my girlfriend? That sort of a thing. And then, honestly, as long as they have, and I'm throwing this caveat in there because I just know there's a lot of families with a lot of backgrounds. But if this person that you are pursuing after, if they have some healthy family dynamics, things like that, they have parents who are engaged with them, that sort of thing, show those parents honor and respect. And even just take a second to meet them. Just say, hey, it's been great getting to know your daughter. It's been great to get to know your son, whatever it may be. And just talk with them for a minute. Because again, when you get married, I just got to tell you, you're not just marrying a person. You're not just dating a person. It's a whole family, which sounds kind of weird, but it's the reality. And so you want to take time, do that, and then just be honoring with it. Cool? Makes sense? You have something to add.
Yeah, the other thing
She's like, that was terrible advice.
No, it wasn't. As he was talking, I was realizing me and him are also talking about two different definitions of dating. So he's talking about the beginning stages of dating. I kind of like you. Do you kind of like me? Can we go and get to know each other? A different part of dating, I'd say, is the exclusive part when you are boyfriend and girlfriend. And so I had one more thing about the boyfriend-girlfriend dating stage, is that, oh goodness, you made me forget it. Give me 1 second. Is that a healthy relationship encourages your significant other to follow their interest. And this is something that is really, really important when you're dating before you're married, because fun fact, I was a psychology major and I learned a lot of fun things in that major. One of the things I learned is that once you get married to someone, because the assumption is you're going to be with them the rest of your life, that's the commitment that you're making, every 5-ish years, that person has a different personality because they have been growing, they've been changing. So a lot of people say who you marry at the beginning of your marriage is different than who you are married to at the end of your marriage, at the end of your life. And so a part of that is that you as a person should always be growing and changing. The person that you are dating should always be growing and changing. And especially before you guys are married, it's important for you guys to get the chance to do the things that you want to do or are interested in. Because here's the thing, is that now that Caleb and I are married, if I one day looked at him and said, hey, I'm going to go to Africa. So I'm planning a trip next week. Just wanted to let you know, and then I'll be back in like a month or so. That doesn't work, right? Because we're married. We can't.
That'd be really awkward.
Yeah, it would be really weird. Also, we share finances, so he'd be like, where's that money coming from?
I just start showing up to the church, and people are like, where'd Sierra go? Like, she's in Africa still.
Africa.
Next week, she's still down there. And they're like, Caleb, like.
But the point is that once you are married, you are doing things together, and you talk about those things together. Before you are married, you are exploring what things you want to pursue in life, and whoever you're dating, you're seeing if they're going to explore those things with you. Because here's the thing, me and Caleb, we didn't go into our relationship saying we want the exact same things, but we did have to ask the question, is this someone whose dreams in some ways align with mine, or whose dreams I could fight for, and who they're going to fight for my dreams as well? Because sometimes the answer is no, and that's okay, but you need to know that before you get married, not after you get married.
Totally. Well, and one of the realities is, too, is like you're having to realize, like this was the way that for Sierra and I, we talked about dating for a long time in a way that I always understood, especially when we got married, was this idea that, hey, yes, I'm saying yes to you, but it also means I'm saying no to everybody else. Like, the reality is the relationship I have with Sierra, even more so than like my family, my parents, things like that, I have said a yes to her that means I have to say no to everyone else for certain things, and that sort of a deal. And it might seem like, well, yeah, no, duh, but like when you start to think about that, the gravity of that decision, it's a big deal. And so that's a part of the dating process, is you are realizing, is this somebody, even when they start to change in 10 years, in 15 years, in 20 years, that I'm going to be willing to do life with, close enough with, so that that change does not scare me, and that sort of a thing. One other thing I just want to throw out there with this is, for at least myself, I think you had this mentality for a little bit. This helped me a ton when it came to dating, and especially when it was in the regards to boundaries and stuff like that, is when I looked at Sierra, and when we were nearing towards like our wedding day, when we were getting engaged, even before that when we were dating, I always viewed Sierra and the woman I was marrying as two different people.
You're not married until you're married.
You're not married until you're married. And so basically with that, I want to explain this even a little bit more. So even up until like the day before, hours before I was married to Sierra, I kept reminding myself, Sierra and the woman that I'm marrying are two different people. Now, why is that? Why is that? Because Sierra deserves an amount of respect, obviously, and that woman who would become my wife deserves an amount of respect. It so happened to be the same person. But I wanted to make sure, let's say, like going towards the altar, Sierra had it where she said, hey, I'm actually not good with this, and she walked away and she said, I can't get married. That would have been crazy. That'd be wild. But if that happened, if it was like a movie, then, I guess that is also real life for some people. I apologize if that's somehow, never mind. So,
I don't think it's any of their stories.
that's true. I don't think it's any of yours. But with that being said, I wanted to make sure, basically, if me and Sierra broke up, like this is a weird thought, I wanted to be able to meet her future husband one day and have him shake my hand and say, hey, thank you for how you honored my wife. It sounds weird, but that's a big deal. Because if it means that he'd be able to look me in the eye and say, I know you respected her, I know you honored her, I know you didn't take anything away from the relationship we were supposed to have, that meant I did a good job in dating her. And in the same way, if me and Sierra had not gotten married, I love the fact that I can think back to our dating relationship and I am not ashamed of it. I don't have those areas. Now, here's the deal. If you're ever in a dating relationship and you have boundaries, you cross things like that, guess what? God's grace is big. God's grace is great. Don't feel shame for that. But if you can approach it at first just saying, God, I want to hold to these things, it is a unique feeling when you get to the finish line of it if you end up being able to get married. Now, let's keep moving on. Next one. Can you be spiritually married without having a ceremony? This is a good question. There are people, when they talk about marriage and that sort of a thing, where they'll say, hey, we love each other a whole lot, so we are, in the eyes of God, married, right? That kind of a thing. There's people that'll say, I don't need a piece of paper from the government to let me know that I'm married, right? And that sort of a deal. Now, I'll obviously say, like, there's, like, points in history and stuff like that where that would kind of then become a gray area and things like that. But in our current setting, our current modern day right now, here is the reality. When we look at marriage, and we look at the idea of a marriage ceremony, when a marriage certificate is signed and that sort of a thing, that's the legal bindingness of it. When me and Sierra got married, we had to go, we signed a document. Now, here's the reality with that. It's not just for tax purposes, okay? Here's the thing. First, God established that way before the U.S. government did, way before any government did. Here's the reality. God is looking and he is protecting us. Now, again, you might say, how? Well, here's the deal. If you go and you never get legally married to somebody, let's say you're just living with somebody and you say, we love each other, we're basically married, we're just not married yet. Here's the deal. Now, this is the funny thing because the government now has common law marriages because after 7 years, they look and they say, you deserve the amount of respect. They can't just walk out on you. That's what it is. It's God looking and he's saying, why does this need to be a legal binding type thing? Because guess what? That person should not have the freedom to get up, walk out, and say, I'm done, and I'm going to take all my stuff with me. Let's say let's just use an example. This is actually the biblical example for it, is that for men and women, when they would get married, here's the reality back in the Bible times. For the most part, the women weren't making much money. The men were the main providers. They were by far the providers for the families. And so what would happen in other surrounding cultures was that men could just say, I'm done with you. Bye-bye. I'm going to go marry another person. They'd be kicked out on the street, and the woman was homeless without anything. So what does God do? God looks at Israel, and he says, no, you need to give a contract. You need to say we're in this together, because then if you decide that you want a divorce, guess what? You are two people who became one person. You now must split everything. And so when we look today, somebody might say, hey, well, I want to be spiritually married. One, if you're only saying that because you want to have sex, that's not a good reason. Just point blank reality. Let's just talk it as it is. But if you are saying that because you're like, well, I just don't think, well, here's the deal. Are you protecting yourself? Because if this ends up going wrong, here's the reality. If me and Sierra one day were to get divorced or something like that, heaven forbid, here's the reality. There is a covering over herself and over myself that makes sure we are taken care of. And a part of that is because we made such a deep commitment that we said, guess what? We're not going to make this easy to leave. There's an importance within that. And so again, when you look at this, can you be spiritually married without having a ceremony? Bible doesn't ever paint it that way. It doesn't. It always paints it as a covenant agreement that was made with some amount of a binding nature to it, where you look and you say, hey, these people are together. There is a union here, and they're supposed to honor that. And so I would say, sure, if you want to make marriage look that way, you can, because you can obviously try to think of it that way. Biblically, no. The Bible never paints it that way. Do you have anything you want to add with that?
Amen.
Amen. So be it. All right. Next question. We're wrapping up with the last few here. Next question. What are ways to get out of risky situations? What are ways to get out of risky situations? Do you want to jump on this one?
Yeah. Well, the first thing, don't hate me for saying this, but the first thing I wrote down was don't put yourself in one. But don't think of me as shaming you. But the reason why I say that is we laugh because I said no-no zones. But literally, if you think about those no-no zones, those places where you think that you might cross boundaries, don't go to them. And that's the first way. If you are not in the place to be in a risky situation, then you're not going to do something that's risky. If you are in places with accountability, then it's really awkward if mom and dad walks into your bedroom and you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing, right? That, I've never had that happen. I don't know why I said right to you like that happened. It didn't. But that is the first thing I would say. Say you are already in a risky situation, and it does come down to a choice in your head. Who are you committed to? It's a reminder saying, I am committed to Jesus and not this person. And so I'm going to be okay with making this situation a little bit awkward right now. Also, while doing this, I think it's easy to be blaming the other person because we're embarrassed because of whatever reason. Ladies, I'll say when I was younger, I had a lot of men who affirmed, my father, my pastor, people who I loved and respected who were you are a queen, you are a jewel, you deserve to be a prized possession. And I'd be yes, amen, amen. But sometimes it would make me a little bit self-righteous. And so then when it came to moments where I could have offered grace to someone who was just kind of figuring out their walk with God or what boundaries look like for them, I didn't offer a little bit of grace, and honestly, I was rude in some situations, or I was judgmental in some situations. So I think what that looks like, at least from a female perspective, is that you are in charge of your actions. So that's the first thing. If there's a situation and you're going, oh no, we're getting too far, it's okay to make the situation awkward and go, hey, I think we need to slow down. Hey, I think we need to take a step back. Hey, I think we need to go to a different place right now. And you should do that in a way that if I'm leaving and say this is me and Caleb, that I am making him feel respected in this moment, that I'm not putting blame on him because it takes two to tango. Am I right? Am I right? Thank you. Yes, it takes two to tango. And so if I step away, it should not be something that he looks at and goes, man, I'm an awful person. Man, I shouldn't have done that. Well, he could say that, but it takes two people in a relationship. The second thing, though, is if someone is not respecting your boundaries, it's okay to call them out and leave. I've had situations where I've said, hey, you did this, and I didn't like it. And the person immediately went, okay, I won't do that again. But it was an awkward situation. It was one that I said at the end of the night because sometimes if you say it in the middle of the night when you can't get away, then you're stuck for like a half hour on a car ride home. That also sucks. But it takes putting yourself in awkward situations and then reminding yourself that you don't owe them anything. And I say this not in a self-righteous way, but you're not married until you're married. I always go back to that. And so if I'm in a committed relationship, which I am, but before this point, if I was in a committed relationship and someone crossed a boundary, sometimes it's easy to go, well, we're in love. Well, we're pretty sure we're going to get married. The reality is that you do not owe anyone anything until you're married, and then you're in a relationship and a partnership. So.
And even in that, it's still a partnership and a relationship of people being comfortable within what they're doing and that sort of a thing. But like one thing I'll just throw out there really quick when it comes to this, when it comes to risky situations, because again, I don't want to assume anything, and I just want to be able to say, because maybe for some of you having this thought go through your head, there is a difference between like Sierra saying, right, there takes two to tango, that sort of a thing, where it's a mutual experience. If you are ever in a risky situation and it's going beyond the kind of jokey way that we're talking about it, where you're like, hey, I'm feeling threatened in this moment, that I have to do something, that this person's going to hold something over my head, they're going to act like, hey, this has to happen, that sort of a thing. Like, just in all honesty, like, get out however you need to. Yeah. Like, and it might mean, like, and again, it might be a difficult thing. It might mean you have to go sit on the front porch of their house and wait for your ride to show up. It might mean that you have to walk down just a few feet so that you're able just to get out and just be like, hey, I'm not going to be there. Like, and it's in reality, like, this is for guys and for gals. Like, there's a reality that sometimes we talk about this and we make it feel like it would just be, you know, maybe it's a girl feeling like they're being pressured into a situation. But honestly, the reality is it can also be for guys. Where if you are in a situation where you're starting to feel pressured into something, that pressure is not a natural thing of somebody saying, well, you're just becoming a man. Like, that's going to be uncomfortable. Hey, you're just becoming a woman. That's going to be uncomfortable. No. That is somebody trying to sway a narrative into your mind to try to make you feel comfortable with something that you're not wanting to do. So don't let somebody talk you into that, and be willing just to look at them and just say, hey, if they're being like pushy, if they're being where they were trying to be aggressive on something, and it's saying, hey, no, I don't feel safe right now. I don't feel okay in this moment right now. And just saying, hey, I'm heading out. I'm leaving. And guess what? There's a reality in some cases you might have somebody look at you and say, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't mean this, I didn't mean that. It's looking and saying, hey, let's talk tomorrow about it then. Because guess what? Somebody's going to always try to cover their butt. They're always going to try to cover their tracks. If they ended up doing something where they went across something, they're trying to say, hey, no, I actually didn't. You misunderstood. Guess what? Boundaries are things of respect. And so if they truly respect you, they're not crossing those boundaries, right? And the last thing I would just say is, like, again, with the risky situations, like Sierra already said, just don't put yourself in them. You know, it's looking and saying, it's really silly. It's saying, hey, you got to run up and grab something out of your bedroom. I'll just stay down here for a second with your mom or dad. Like, it might seem silly, but that's sometimes the thing you have to do to help yourself. And again, you know yourself, you know your limits, you know your boundaries, that sort of a thing.
And one thing I'll add is, like, even when you have boundaries, sometimes you, in your head, and maybe this is just me because I will say I'm a little bit prideful sometimes. When I was dating, I had the mentality of like, oh, I can handle it. Like, I get why other people have that boundary, but I can handle it. The reality is that boundaries are a good thing. The Lord gives us boundaries within all areas of life. That's why the Bible is there. But boundaries do not make you a baby. Boundaries do not make you immature. If anything, I'd say boundaries show that you have maturity to be in a relationship, so never be ashamed of boundaries.
Exactly. So continuing on, we just got two more really quick that we want to hit on for you guys, because you guys asked these, so we want to address them. Minecraft beds together, yes or no? you can have fun with what you want then, okay? It's just Minecraft. You can have your beds together if you really want. Just make sure the blankets don't go together. Okay. I don't know. Okay. Why do you guys make me answer these things? Next one. Do you believe dating in high school is wise? And let's just even throw out there junior high. Do you believe dating in high school specifically is a wise thing, though? We'll go through this one pretty quickly, but I would say maybe. Okay? So here's the reason why this. You guys aren't like here's the youth pastor answer. Here's the youth pastor answer. No, it's not wise. That is the youth pastor answer, and that might be your parents' answer, and you should respect and honor them, okay? Guess what? One of the commandments is honor your father and mother, and it will go well with you. It's the first commandment with a blessing in the entire Bible. Take that serious. So if your parents say don't date in high school, honor that. Guess what? I'm someone who did it, and guess what? It bit me in the butt, all right? So you want to honor the things your parents say, but here's the deal. You have an understanding of who you are, and you have an understanding of your maturity. The problem comes into the fact when you're not willing to acknowledge if you're mature enough or not. That's a hard decision because it's a lot of times we're willing to look and say, I totally am. But then you have to look back and realize, oh, really, am I? Like that, it's a real question to ask. And again, it would be really easy for me to get up here and just say, no, you shouldn't, all that stuff. Now, will I say it is the best thing? Probably not. I think you're fine if you wait. I think it's fine to have somebody that you are just good friends with, that you even could tell them. You could say, hey, I like you. I do like you. I care about you. You're somebody I have feelings for. I just want to let you know that. But hey, if this is going to be something, it is okay for us to wait until after we graduate. It is okay for us to act as friends, waiting until then so that then we can date. Why is that? Because again, it's just you getting to know the person. In all intrinsic purposes, if you tell the person you like them and stuff like that, it shouldn't change anything about it then. You're getting to know them. You're being friends. You're being able to find out more about that person. And guess what? If you get to the end of high school and each person is not wanting to then date one another, there was no point to date before. Right? Does that make sense? Now, again, I talked about this a few weeks ago. You don't need to look at every dating relationship and have the first question be when you go to them and say, will you marry me one day if we started to date? That does not need to be your question. Don't be that weird. I'm going to say it's weird because let's just be real, it kind of is. But you want to look at that relationship, and the moment you know the answer is no, you step out of it. You might not know it's yes yet, but when you know it's no, well, then you know to go. Made that up on the spot. But, so I will say, is it wise to date in high school? You need to know yourself. It totally could be. For most of you, is it? Probably not. Okay? Sierra has more thoughts on this, though.
Yeah. I mean, really similar to you. When I was in high school, I had a pretty long-term relationship. But I will say, yeah, boo, just kidding. No, he was a very nice person, and we had a very healthy relationship, but part of that was because my parents had very strict boundaries for us. If any of you are the oldest children, you know that, like, your parents are the most strict with you, and then with each child, they, like, loosen up. So by the time my sister was dating, my parents didn't have any rules for her, and I was like, what the heck? To be fair, anyways, and I was going to say
she handles her relationship very well, though.
And she's older than I was. I was 16 when I started dating. She's 21. It's different, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, love you, Kirsten. But one of the rules my parents had from the time I was 16 until I graduated was you're allowed to go on group dates. And so I would be with my boyfriend and go out with my friends. I'd be with my boyfriend and sometimes go out with my siblings because my friends weren't available. One time I took my brother to the movies with my boyfriend, and we shared a drink, and he had his own drink. And when we got home, my parents told me, my brother went to him, and he was like, okay, here's the thing. They didn't kiss, but they did share a straw. So, and he would go back and report to them. So with that being said, I think that going back to the very first question when I said allow your community to be in your relationship, I think if you're a couple that allows community to be in every part of your relationship, sure, that's good. But I'll also go back to what Caleb said. You know, at the end of our time dating, we had just realized that we wanted different things in life, which is very normal when you start dating when you're 16 and break up when you're 19. Who I was when I was 16 is not who I was when I was 19, and what I wanted back then isn't the same as what I wanted when I was 19. And we had come to this place where we realized, oh, I think we want different things. And so in a healthy way, we parted ways. But that was someone that I cared about. That was, at the time, one of my really great friends. And I was like mourning that friendship because it wasn't there anymore. And so there was heartbreak that I had to go through that maybe I could have saved myself if we were just friends for those years, and so.
Totally. And so I think when it comes to this whole question and stuff, again, it's just asking yourself, like, hey, am I mature enough for this? And if you answer that question very quickly and say, yes, I am, you're probably not. Just being real. There's people I know who are 25, 30 that probably aren't mature enough to date right now. Just being honest. But there's people also then who are younger who I know where I'm like, man, they're pretty mature. They could probably handle this well. Now, again, it's just knowing what can you handle, what is a wise decision, and what's going to set you up for success and that sort of a thing. And so you might have wanted the black and white answer up here for that question, but we respect you guys more than just to come up and say, here's the blanket answer for you guys. Because again, the Bible just looks at us and it says, hey, what are you able to do? How can you follow God? How can you be obedient? Respect your parents still, though, depending on what they have. But with that being said, those were your guys' questions you guys had. And so for Sierra and I, we're done answering questions. So we need to take a change of pace. Sound good? Does that sound good? All right. So what we are going to do now is we are going to have a little bit of a TrueLife formal after party just to end the evening. And so what you guys will be able to do is we're going to bump up some music. We got Martinelli's over there. We got Cake Pops. Thank you, Jacob Davis and Kennedy Keene, for putting those together. You guys can have one to start. You can get a second after that. Those Martinelli's. You guys, thank you for being at the TrueLife formal. We love you, and good night.
Party time.
Let's bump up the music.